I am making a base for the Cursed City. This is a 40mm base with a magnet glued to the bottom. I like these bases. They're from Cobalt Keep. I'm going to start with a heavy cardstock. This is a leftover takeout box that was very clean. I'm going to make the tiles for these approximately 1 centimeter square. As you can see on one of the bases that I've already completed, the little tiles that are molded onto the miniature base appear to be about 1 centimeter square. Okay, so now I line up the cardstock with the grid on my cutting mat. I make an approximate cut using the straight edge of a ruler. I don't cut all the way through the cardstock here. My hobby knife is a little dull and I just need to replace it. So I end up having to tear along the line that I cut, which is fine because these tiles are gonna look old and worn. Okay, now I have a strip of the cardstock, so I line it up with the squares and I start making cuts. They're probably a little less than 1 centimeter square. Here I am bending up the little tiles to make them look more worn and creased and slightly damaged. Okay, now I'm ready to add glue to the base. I'm going to use a cyanoacrylate gel formula super glue, and then I'm going to spread it somewhat evenly across the base with an old manicure stick. Now I'm putting the tiles across the base in a checkerboard type pattern. I'm doing it like this because I will let a little bit of the red show through. I just like the look of it, and I've made a couple of these bases already. Some of the tiles won't fit perfectly on because it's a round base, so I will trim them into the general shape. It does not have to be a perfect fit, but somewhat close. Okay, while the glue is still wet, I sprinkle a little sand over the top of the base and I push it in real good so that it adheres to the glue areas. I just use any old hobby sand. You could use pool filter sand or aquarium sand. I don't use a uniform sand. I like the chunkiness. It just looks more natural. And here I'm just adding it to more creases and clearing it off some of the tiles. Now I'm just going to add some accessory little pieces. I put the miniature on the base to get a general idea of how I want to place it. And then I take a piece of sprue that's been cut in an unusual formation or a natural looking formation, and I decide that's where I want to put it, and I attach it to that position with the super glue. Please note that the miniature is not attached to the base at this time. Okay, now I'm going to use some satin varnish Mod Podge, which is basically, it's like a glue, a craft glue, but it will leave a satin type seal over the top of the tiles. I like to use this because it helps lock in both the sand and the cardstock that I used as the actual tiles. That way when I apply paint or washes, it doesn't buckle or ruin the paper over time. It can be a bit messy, and I like to clean up the base rim, so I just attach it to a stand and use a little bit of water on my brush to clean around the edges and wipe it off on a paper towel. If you leave the glue on the base rim, it's not gonna affect it negatively. It'll just look chunky and you won't get that nice, smooth, black rimmed base. Now you just have to wait several hours for the Mod Podge to dry completely. It does take a while. I like to make several of these in one go and then let them sit overnight. Okay, now I'm ready to apply the paint. For this series, I'm using Dungeon Gray by Reaper Miniatures. And I just cover all of the tiles and the little sprue piece with the Dungeon Gray. I like that it's transparent and you can still see some of the red tiles coming through, but it does a really good job of making them look like old, worn tiles. And that's why I'm using this color. Okay, now I'm going to dry brush on this base using an old makeup brush. It's got very soft bristles and it does a good job of spreading the paint pretty good. I believe I'm using bleached linen from Reaper Miniatures, and I just dip a little bit in the paint and brush it off on the paper towel and start brushing back and forth across the base to catch the edges of the tiles. Now that the paint is dry, I am going to apply a wash using Agrax Earthshade, and that's it. It's just going to take a while to dry, so let it dry completely. It could take about an hour usually. Now that the wash is dry, I'm going to attach the miniature to the base using the liquid formula of Loctite Super Glue. Then I go ahead and add a tuft or a couple of tufts. These are the Army Painter tufts. Sometimes I like to split the tufts up into smaller pieces, and I go ahead and apply this one with super glue because it doesn't have a lot of the sticky stuff left on it. Well, I say that and then I get it stuck to my tweezers. And now the base is finished, and I'm actually very happy with how it turned out.